What is up, and welcome to this week's Ecamm live demo. My name's Luis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, and I always remind all of my Camera Junkie crew, as I'm going to remind you today, to upgrade your skills before your gear. And today we're going to be having some fun checking out Ecamm and this amazing program that allows you to do so much, including that intro, because I actually started with a blank profile so that we can build on it for today's demo and I can answer your questions and we can work it out in real time. But it literally took me just about 2 minutes of me sitting here in front of the computer to kind of change a different camera angle and make it black and white, add a timer, and that simply became a simple, like, countdown timer screen that you'd be surprised. I put 1 minute and it goes by in no time. I'm thinking like, oh, instead of just anything just in case, and I forgot that I had my AirPods on, which is not ideal for live streaming in this case. So I went back to my trusty in-ear monitor and I needed that minute to kind of get those things going. But with that, let's see exactly who's hanging out here in the chat. And if you do have any questions for me for today, please be sure to put a Q colon in front of any question you might have. That way I can look it up and be sure that I answer it accordingly. So let's get to it. All right. I was asking Paul to see if there was anything in particular that you guys might be struggling with that might have been making its rounds through the Discord or through Facebook, but there was really nothing at the moment. But if you have something that you're struggling with, once again, please be sure to let me know and we'll do our best to try to help you out with that. All right, let's see who's hanging out here. Speaking of that, we have Paul, Mr. Moderator. Oh, let's move this comment here. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to it. I freaking love Ecamm, man. It makes things so easy. It really does. Like the whole, like, once you get into it and you understand the basic controls, it's like kind of like when you get your car, right? As soon as you have your license and you got the basic controls, it's like the world is yours. You can drive wherever you want. And for that reason, it's kind of the same way that I feel, with Ecamm. Once you learn how to drive it, like the world is yours and you can do whatever you want with it. All right. We also have Awesome Wood Things here saying, hey, how are you doing, sir? That's Mr. Matt. Valerie's in the house saying, hey, Luis, look that pilot cockpit. You got my behind the scenes. Yes, I call it my command station, right? But that's another thing. I am working on a video about what I was able to do with this system, actually with this setup, a couple of different videos, one of them being the Rodecaster Pro Duo, right? So I had the Rodecaster Pro 2, I still have it, but I just got this new guy, the Rodecaster Pro Duo, this little one. And because it's so much smaller, it allows for a lot more space on my desk, and my desk is limited when it comes to space. So if I can just touch right here, that's my wall, and that's a hard surface, which is usually not the best when it comes to when it comes to like audio and things like that. So there's a lot of limitations, and because of it, I had to think outside of the box when it comes to how I have this whole setup. So I'm working on a video for the Rodecaster Duo, being kind of like, well, what I'm gonna call it is the Goldilocks zone of audio processors for me, right? Because it's not too big, it's not too small, it's just right. And at the same time, go in depth into how I've set everything up here, because there's a lot that I do in this small area. Okay. But she's also saying what's up to the fam, saying hi to Paul. All right, we got Matthew in the house. Says, hi, I'm new to Ecamm. What's the best way to use Ecamm when using screens that allow me to screen record with my video in a bubble, but be able to see full screen like you're using clean shot? Okay, so we got a lot of information here. Let me try to read it again and see if I can get that corrected. It says, what's the best way to use Ecamm when using one screen that allows me to screen record my video in a bubble, but be able to see full screen like when using clean shot? Okay, so it says allows me to record my video in a bubble, but be able to see full screen like when using clean shot. Now, I believe I have clean shot, so I use it sparingly because there's not a lot of screen recordings that I'm doing. Okay, I just got a message. Okay, so Paul just cleared it up for me. Thank you for that message, sir. Says basically like a how did he put it? A reaction video type setup, which is kind of what I was gonna go for right now. Another way that I do this is that I actually produce the Flow podcast, and I always have a bubble in the bottom right hand corner, or bottom left hand corner in this case, that I actually just kind of pop in and out whenever I need to actually adjust anything on the fly. So let's go into live demo mode, which should be here. Make sure I'm hitting the right button. Okay, and now you're seeing what I got going on as far as my Ecamm, so that I can show you what's going on. All right, I got two camera feeds in my camera switcher window right here. Let me see if I'm doing this correct. Nope, for whatever reason I'm trying to activate the zoom so I can zoom into certain areas. Or is it control? Oh yeah, control. So I did get it right. All right, so this is the camera effects window there. There we go. Getting better at this. So my camera switcher window, we just have two cameras, which is my overhead here, which is my iPhone XR, as you can see, and then my main camera. All right, that's cool. I'll get better with that. Okay, so that's gonna be my sources. Let's just say that whatever it is that I'm doing or that I need to have recorded, I'm doing directly on my main screen. So if that's what I'm going to do in this case, because I really don't have anything set up, I'm just going to click that camera switch, right? Or click on that camera and it's going to automatically switch. So if I were to turn off the live demo mode, you'll see that this is what's being broadcast. But then once I turn the live demo mode on, you see that all I did was just quickly click on that camera, and it then becomes the feed or the source that you're broadcasting. So let's say that this is the image that you're trying to record and have it clear. That's fine. All I'm going to do is now grab this camera, and instead of just clicking on it, I'm going to click and drag, and you'll see that it creates a little plus symbol on top of it. And now, because I had the settings already set up, it already added me in a bubble there as like in a circle, and it was automatically set to my first camera. So now if I were to get out of live demo mode, you'll see that you have me in the background with the like behind the scenes shot, my BTS, but then also I have a bubble that I'm able to move here. So this is how simple it is. Well, let me give a better explanation and maybe change that shot. Let me see if I could just grab something and throw it in the background, because I think my shot is very busy right now. Let's see. Just gonna throw this in the background. There we go. Put me on top. There we go. So this is a better illustration of what's going on. So this is kind of how you would do it. Now, if I go back to the live demo mode so that you can see how I'm doing it in the background, right? I was able to have the imagery set there as my base, whether it's a video or anything else that you're, like commentating on or anything like that. And then it was as simple as just grabbing the camera and dragging it over, and you get the little plus symbol, and then you'll get a camera. Now traditionally it wouldn't already be in the circle. It will come in the wide aspect right there, which is what I wanted to demonstrate. All you would have to do is hit this little pencil icon, which gives you the options for it, right? And one of them is the shape. So right here, let me get better to it. Wow. Learning every day. Okay. So right there we have the shape option. So we're going to go from wide, classic, square, circle. In this case, I'm going to do a circle, and it also gives you some more options, as you can see. So if I want to do a border, I have the color already set up. So then all I have to do is select the border width to make it a lot more intense or very fine. I say about an 8 is okay for me, and I already have it all set up here. But if I do so, let me just, ooh, that scooted over more than what I expected. Okay, so we bring the pencil here, right? And just to show you that my opacity of that border, I have it set to 40, which gives it kind of like this glass type look. And I already have it selected to snow, but if you were to do any different color, you would still be able to mess with the opacity the same to kind of fine tune it. So we can go with like a violet, and then, drag it down, and then you'll still get that like transparent glass type effect. So these are just all options that you can do. So once again, I like that. We bring it down to 40. We close this, we close that. And now when we get out of here, right, we have this bubble that we can put wherever we want, and that will basically be your scene. So from there, that would be it. And that's as simple as it is for you to create a shot. Now, another cool thing about Ecamm is that even though you're doing a recording or a broadcast and you have multiple things playing, if you have them set up in your camera, in your camera switcher, then as a source, you have the ability to create an isolated file by itself. So even though the file that's being broadcast and being pumped out will show pretty much like this with me in the bottom left-hand corner in a bubble, as soon as you're done, you have access to the files in its entirety, full, like high definition, squared off, so that you can repurpose that content however your heart desires. All right, so with that being said, now kind of to reverse everything to show you where I was at, kind of making things simple, I am going to remove this camera, like turn it off, turn off this background, and I am back onto my camera source. And I'm just gonna once again click my main camera, which then makes it my main camera. If I wanted to have a secondary shot right here, it is as simple as just clicking this simple plus button in your scenes window. So let's once again go ahead. We're gonna click this little new plus button that says new empty scene, right? As soon as we do so, we got a new scene right up here, and we can name it BTS, right? Behind the scenes. Okay, let's just go there. Right, so now that we have our behind the scenes cam, in this scene here is where I'm going to switch out, and I'm going to click my iPhone XR camera, and now that becomes that scene. What is the purpose of having multiple scenes? Well, as you can see, when I started this live stream, I had an intro. So if I click into it, then it moves automatically into the next scene as soon as the timer's done, because that's the way that I set it up, and it comes to this overhead. Now, my first scene, I had it saved where my microphone was muted. So while I'm working behind the scenes and is doing the countdown, I'm playing some music, which I actually left on. I'm so used to playing music in the background of my live streams, but that's an option. That's something extra, but I digress. There we go. So with that being said, right now it moves over automatically into this scene without me having to do anything. But I also have the ability to just use my arrow keys, right, to actually switch the scenes themselves. So if I were to hit command left arrow, right, which is kind of going backwards, kind of if you were reading a book from like left to right, right, the way that we read. If I were to hit command left arrow, it's going to jump back to the intro scene. And then as soon as that happens, because I can't speak anymore, I'm going to then hit command right arrow, which will bring me right back to the main scene. So we'll be looking at that right over here. Actually, let me zoom into it. Right. So now that we're here, I'm going to hit command left. And then I hit command right arrow on my keyboard. So I don't really have to go switching around. And if you're just familiar and have your hands available to do so, the keyboard's going to be your best friend when you're switching scenes. So then you'll be able to then the same way command right arrow to the next scene, which is the BTS, and it will scoot right into it just the same way. See, so now we're in that BTS scene, and that's how simple it is for you to create a new scene, a whole new look, but also give you complete control. Now, this little device that I have on my desk here, this is a Stream Deck. Absolutely love it. It's just a glorified like keyboard. And then what that does is that it allows you to set up each scene in a simple button instead of having to use the command arrows, and makes it just that much easier for you to switch from scene to scene once you have everything set up in your scenes window overlay, or no, or your scenes window, because overlays is a completely different window, so I don't want to confuse you guys. All right, let's get back to it. So now I will then hit command left arrow to go back to the main shot and quickly go back out of live demo mode and see where we are in the chat, because I went off. All right. Yep. Like Paul says, if you have a question, please make it look like that. It makes it a lot easier for me. Okay, Matt has a question. Says, I have a TV behind me. I believe we've talked about this. What setting on my Sony A6100 will stop the limit, the slow rolling darker bar and scrolls on the screen? We had talked about this, and I have a screen over here. You may not like it, but the way that you're going to get rid of the bars is actually increasing your shutter rate, and also that increases like the sharpness, and you lose what we call the natural motion blur. So when it comes to video, it's not like photography where if you have a high like moving object, you increase the shutter speed so that you're able to capture like a clear sharp shot, you know, in one snap. When it comes to video, we're trying to mimic more like the natural view of your eye, or the way that we see things naturally. And it is speculated that, you know, our day to day, we see something within the realm of like 30-ish frames per second, so to speak. And that's the way that we perceive natural motion in our everyday day to day. So when we're doing that in cameras, there's a thing called the 180-degree shutter rule in videography, and that's where you want to double or have like the exposure double of what your frame rate is. So you're most likely going to try to put, and I don't think the A6100 has it. You know what? I have one here, so luckily enough, I'm able to check real quick. So I'm just going to turn on this camera. And the thing that I'm looking for right now is the video quality. Now, to get it done, what, like I said, what you might not like is that you might have to set your camera to high definition instead of 4K. If you're trying to get 4K out of the camera, it might not be possible because the camera itself doesn't have 60 frames per second in 4K, which would be what you would need. You would need to increase your shutter speed to twice the rate of 60 frames per second, which is 120, and these cameras give you the option of 125 over, 1/125, which would be your shutter speed to get rid of that black banding, because you're actually like the camera is capturing twice the amount of frames that the TV behind you is actually pumping out. So because that one's set at 60, your camera will need to be set at 125 over 1, and then the frame rate needs to be at 60 for you to remove that black banding. It's because of the slower rate and the faster rate of the lines moving on your television that you're seeing that effect. So I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm changing it from 4K to HD. And in HD, yes, in HD, you can have the A6100 set to Super 35, which gives you the 60 frames per second. You could even go to 120 frames per second in high definition, which is pretty cool. But that's what you would need to set your camera to. So to fix that problem with your current camera, you would need to do that. Some newer cameras might have options like the anti-flicker rate, which is on some of the newer Sony cameras, which might be easier and might give you the ability to get the 4K imagery that you want, if that is what you want. But that's what you're going to be looking at to get rid of that flicker rate. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so we got Park Bros in the house. They've been using Ecamm for 2 weeks now. What difference it's made in our shows, right? It is like next level stuff. And once again, going back to it, once you learn this stuff, man, like there's nothing that I can't do in Ecamm. And I've taken some of my own live streams where I've just overlaid a popular television show like Pardon the Interruption, and then I was just able to basically kind of like I put the opacity of the file at like 50% or lower so I could get that same glass feel, and then I just trace everything with blocks and text and everything right into Ecamm, and you'd be surprised. But yeah, and like I'm seeing everybody's like saying what's up to you, Park Bros. Welcome to the Ecamm fam. The best feature of Ecamm, without a doubt, has to be the Ecamm fam. Just everyone who is willing to help out, like myself, Mr. Mr. Paul Duncan, Mr. Moderator, the entire Ecamm fam. We're all here, happy to help. All right. I just got a message. Heard you. Okay, so I just got a message from Paul. Let's see what we're doing here. Okay, so I just find all the options in the way that makes sense when I want to record the screen. Okay. Let me just go through these comments, see if there's any more questions. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm seeing something here, which is another good point, right? Let me go back into live demo mode. This is what I have because this is the way my OCD works, right? But at the same time, if there's something that you're not using, it is very easy to just close all these windows, because if you're not utilizing them, like I'm not using the Zoom meeting right now, I could kind of move this over to my next window. But if you're not paying attention or need the sound windows for whatever, you can just take all of that off, and even the overlays. Oh, kind of lost my mouse. So you can just utilize the things that you're using in your setup and make it as easy or as complex as either you need it to be or you want it to be. Hey, George is in the house. How are you doing, sir? And like Valerie says yes, once you get the concept, it becomes much easier. The cool thing though is this tremendous support. You see the Ecamm fam. And yeah, and congrats on your show. All right. Paul's dropping the link for the communities here. All right. Let me see the next question here. Are isolated recordings based off the number of cameras and screens only, or can you have the standard shot, zoomed in shot, one camera recorded as isolated files separate, for instance? No, it's going to be just the raw file feeds that is going to be recorded. But if you can zoom in on Ecamm, then you can zoom in any post-production program just to kind of crop out and give you the same type of imagery that you would be able to use with Ecamm. So the main file, because in the isolated file or the folder that you get once you're done, it's going to have the main file. So if you were doing it, like for instance today's live stream, the one that I'm doing right now, I'm going to have a file that has everything that I've done the same way that you've seen it for today's broadcast. So every time that I've gone into the live demo mode and everything like that, it will have all of that baked in there, and it's going to be set as the main file. But then every camera that I have connected to it, in this case to my main and my XR, which is my behind the scenes camera, that is what I'm going to have isolated files of as well. Now you have the ability to record 3 main camera feeds in your setup. I'm also known around these digital streets as Mr. Camera Junkie, and sometimes I have 5 or 6 cameras connected in my setup at the same time. I will not have the ability to record all 6 of them in isolation, so I have to pick and choose. But there is a good thing, which is any person that you bring in, whether it's through a Zoom meeting or through the interview mode, that will have its own separate file as well and have its own recording or recordings. So that's where you can get a lot more than just the main 3 cameras that you have able at your disposal. When you think about it that way, then if you really need multiple, and this is getting a little nerdy, but that's when you would actually connect variety of different cameras that you need to have isolated recordings and connect them to different computers, or have them connect to your own setup kind of through an interview mode or through a Zoom meeting, so that way you have that feed. You'd be able to use it in your programming just like another camera, but also have its own isolated recording. So do I, man. I absolutely love my Stream Deck. All right, we have another question here. Is there a setting to mute all mics during a particular scene? Yes, but you would have to do it for each single one. So let's go back to it. In the live demo mode here, right? I'm going to bring back my sound levels windows. So right here, we have the mute buttons for all the different effects. Actually, let me zoom into it. There we go. So this is our sound levels window. And you can see that we have the Rodecaster Duo chat, which is what's playing the music that's coming in separately. And then I have my main microphone that doesn't move when I don't speak. So if I were to click this, now the music's gone and you're just hearing my voice when I speak. And at the same time, like I said, I can mute myself. So with those options in each scene, you'd be able to select and mute for all of the things that could be playing sounds in your broadcast, and make sure that they're not making sounds. If you have Zoom guests, you can mute them completely, and that will mute your entire Zoom meeting, right? If you were to do the interview guest, it would be all the guests that you have currently in your interview mode window. So that's how it works. But just to illustrate, like I mentioned before, when we scoot over here, the intro scene here actually has my microphone muted. And because the settings are saved per scene, that's exactly what happens. Like once I click the intro scene, I'm gonna be muted, and you'll see my main microphone that says Chris be muted, and then the second audio will continue to play the music in the background. And immediately I switch over to the next scene, it unmutes itself and gives you the ability to speak. And that's how easy it is to go from a countdown where you're not hearing any behind the scenes sounds. So like, let's say I was still getting ready and I stubbed my toe and I said something inappropriate while I was working behind the scenes during the countdown, that wouldn't come through the microphone because it's muted. So it's kind of protection from myself. And that's just one of the easy ways that you can do it. But that's the option that you have to mute scenes. But the muting of the sounds is saved per scene. All right, let's see. Oh, she's saying that that's exactly the setup that he has right now. He says, I stream at 60 frames per second. I'm at 125 now. You're still getting that flicker? I would have to check the TV. But then, you know what, Matt? In this case, I think it's the same thing I told you before. You would have to see which one's less expensive. A new upgrade to a new camera that might make things easier, or a new TV that might have a better, like, like anti-flicker or however, and if you're going to go the TV route, I would take my camera to the store and check out which televisions are giving that effect and which ones are not, and then that would definitely make me decide which television I'm going to put in the background. Not sure. So we have Q Pixels Photography. How to activate Facebook viewer rewind with Ecamm. Paul, if you could help me out with that one, or if not, I'm really not sure what that means, because I'm not familiar with viewer rewind with Ecamm. No. Okay, so that's the same question. How to activate. Let me see if I could just Google real quick if I can get a understanding of what that is. But actually it says Facebook viewer rewind. Facebook viewer rewind. Okay. From what it looks like that's a setting in Facebook. It's saying whether you activate it or deactivate it, it's a setting in Facebook, not in Ecamm. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so Matt says I'm set to 1080 4K, chops down image, crops in. I will have to check that out. I don't think it should crop in. It says my current settings is f2 60 frames per second, ISO 200, and you're still getting that. Matt, you know what? We're probably just gonna have to hop on a 15-minute call and see if I can help you out with that, because that is a lot more than hardware. It's not really like a Ecamm thing that's causing that flicker. Yep, it says that's what he was trying to say, I think. Ecamm fam is spectacular, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, once again, this same question. It's not something that you can activate through Ecamm. Video like Dad, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Let me see. Just checking for questions here. Oh yeah, and that's another good tip. Always lock your scenes. That's Let me show you where that's at. Once you're here, I'm really liking the zoom thing. The more you use it, the more you learn it. But right here, when you go into the scenes, excuse me, and you have the scene set up the way that you like it. So, like for example, the intro, we have that one set up. We had the little timer and everything, black and white, look over the camera. So we just hit this little lock, and now that's locked. Everything's locked into place. The mute of the microphone and the music playing in the background, nothing of those settings can be changed now. And it's just basically rock and roll, which is a really cool thing that I have set up on my own live streams as well, where you set your scenes up, and that also becomes what we call your run of show, right? It also keeps you on track. So let's say you were doing a presentation, for, like, let's say it was a PowerPoint or something like that. You can, instead of having a PowerPoint presentation, you can build out that same presentation per scene in Ecamm, which is going to give it a lot more flair and a lot more fun, right? You usually don't have the ability to bring comments up on a presentation, but with Ecamm you can, and that's what makes this just awesome. So once you have like this main shot set, we lock it, and then the BTS shot, we lock it. Now it also gives us the ability to just easily switch from one scene to the next, right? So I switched to my behind the scenes, and that is like still working perfectly. And once again, with the stream deck, if you have the button set to a scene, that's also going to work, but it gives you the ability to just have everything set and prevents you from making a mistake on the fly, right? So if you have everything the way that you like, lock your scenes, and that's going to save you a lot of headache. Oh, whoa. Let's unzoom. That's what I was trying to do. And there we go. And he says, yeah, the TV is pretty basic, no FPS settings. And listen, televisions have come a long way. I have a TCL, which is a very inexpensive brand television, but yet it doesn't give me any of those effects. So it might just be a simple upgrade like that. But once again, I said take your camera and make sure. But also another tip, Matt, like the new Sony ZV-E10 Mark II came out, and that is a pretty feature packed little camera for the price. So it might be looking like something that you might want to upgrade, maybe not now, but in the near future. Micros Trader is here, has a question. Is there a way to move the main viewer window without grabbing a layer inside the viewer window? Okay, I think that's what you were saying. I'm not saying. I think that's what I was just saying with locking the window. Okay, so let me go back to it. Let me give you an example. Now we're in the once again, the live demo mode. I'm going to unlock the scene, so it's going to give me the ability to manipulate it, right? So let's go. Let me see how I can demonstrate this. Okay, I'm just going to create a new scene, right? And in the new scene, we have the main camera, but I'm going to change the source, which is up here, from camera to blank. So now that's a blank. Oh, that's sitting in my background? Okay. I wasn't expecting that. It should be black, but let me go ahead and open up it's this one, my overlays window. Yep. And right here says show in background. I have my blue and purple. You see, I just turned it off, and this is what we should be looking at, right? Just a blank screen here. But you can easily take like a video and place it in the background, and then that video is going to be looping in indefinitely, and that would be my background. Or you can take an image file just like a photo of a background, right? And we're just gonna add this image to the back, and now that becomes kind of like the background, the desktop. Once I have this desktop set here, you can grab your camera, right? And just drop it on top, and now you have a camera on top of that background. I'm gonna change the style from circle to square. We're gonna add some roundness to the edges of this image. And like Doc likes to say, which is almost a given on these demos, you have to embiggen. So you embiggen the file itself, and now I have a camera laying on top of the overlay of the image. So taking live demo mode off, this is what it will look like to your broadcast, and that's the way that you set it up. So right here, if you want to kind of move this window, right, you see what I just did right there? I actually kind of just moved the background, and you're like, damn it. And then you try to move the window itself, and you moving the camera, and you're like, oh no, that's not what I wanted. This is exactly what we're talking about, locking your scenes. Because immediately that you just press this little lock right here on the scene, it locks everything in place. And like I just mentioned, prevents you from messing up. And now it gives you the ability to click on this window and move it wherever you want on your desktop, in your setup, in your layout, which then allows you to be like me and go OCD, right? And line everything up to your heart's desire so that you have everything set up the way that you like it, right? And I have everything pressed up to the corner so that I can fit everything in, and that gives me the ability. But that has to do with locking the scenes, because what it does is that it prevents you from, like, you know, with the mouse wheel scrolling up and down and making the camera feed bigger, right? So if I were to unlock it and I would just hover my hand over it and I just hit the scroll wheel right here, right? As I hit the scroll wheel up, it embiggens or unembiggens the size of that. So if you don't want your scenes to change size because they're all uniform, so even though you're moving from scene to scene, the only thing that you want to actually transition is the camera feed inside, then you want all of them to be exactly centered. And as you can see, Ecamm gives us these awesome little blue little guidelines to let you know that your camera feed is dead center. So once you have it there and you have it in the size that you want, you lock the scene, and that gives you the ability to move it around without jeopardizing the look of the scene itself, right? And that's how you do it, locking your scenes, which is what's very important. All right. Okay, if it was that question, I think I got it, but let me know as well. Put it in again, and I'll be happy to answer it. To be honest with you, there's a laundry list. Oh, well, let me, for anyone who might be listening, Q Pixels Photography says, question, any luck rewind feature in Ecamm? And I'm most likely going to tell you not. That would be something that the API from Facebook would actually have to allow the code writers to deal with. And on top of that, the amazing, you know, creators of Ecamm are just a couple of twin brothers who are constantly updating this amazing program, and also doing a lot of feature requests that they have a long list. And because this is something that's not from the Ecamm side but from the Facebook side, and I'm not 100%, and I could be speaking out of line, but just from my bit of information of knowing on the inside that Facebook is not the easiest to work with, I really don't see that rewind feature will be coming to Ecamm anytime soon. So fingers crossed to you. Okay, we have another question here. Says, let me, it's not pulling up here. Says, I assume Ecamm can record computer audio from say Logic Pro or Final Cut if you're doing a tutorial but also have a mic audio. Absolutely, yes. The back in the sound levels window, going back to it, right over here. I lost my mouse. Right over here, sound effects. Oh, actually, I don't have it set up because I'm using a Rodecaster Duo. What you would actually need to install is called System Audio. It's kind of like a downloadable plugin, so to speak, with Ecamm, and then that will allow you to have that system audio right there in that sound levels window. It will be a feature that then will give you the ability to utilize, hear that audio, have it recorded, or mute it just the same as I was explaining before. All right, Paul, I see you there. Neil's in the house. It says you'd be able to change the shutter speed using anti-flicker stepping. Oh, you see, Matt also said, yes, that's my next camera, ZV-E10. No question. It's actually like very, very feature rich. Neil says, try Googling variable shutter. Okay, so look what Paul says. It says, Luis, now you can show why we have people use the Q. Perfect illustration. Now, why do we always ask to put the Q colon? Because I'm going to bring my comments window into the fray here, right? And I'm going to go into live demo mode so that you can see this is my comments window. I have it set up in my teleprompter so that I can read it while I'm looking at the camera. But there's a laundry list of comments that I'm trying to get through. And as you can see, you can't see all of them in one shot. But right here, right on top, comments, you have the ability to search, which is what's next level. So right here, I'm going to hit Q colon. And now what I have is just the list of the questions of the people who put them there. So it gives me the ability to simply just search for that. But it not only does that, that's how we've set it up so that we can make it easier on ourselves. And any comment that has that Q colon in it will now be pulled up. But it works for anything because this is a search. So if you read something where somebody said a particular thing like the ZV-E10, right? Actually, so we can see. I'm doing it like the neighbor and home improvement. So right here, if we were to just put ZV, right? Just because I was searching for the ZV-E10 comment, I just put ZV and Awesome Wood Things. Matt actually ends up coming up and I find his his comment, which if we were on a live stream now gives me the ability to click it once again and bring it up onto the screen into the broadcast. Now, as you can see, none of the comments were deleted. Is just not what I'm searching for. So as soon as you click the X, all of the comments come right back, right? Allowing you to continue in your conversation. But at the same time, it gives you the ability to do Q colon. And now you've simplified like the rest of the things that could be confusing. So it gives you the ability to make sure that you answered all of your questions. And that's how you demo the Q colon. All right. Okay. And using the Q colon, I'm just rolling through them to make sure that I haven't missed any of them. Okay, so it says brand new here, my crafty adventures, welcome. Says, I've heard you mention live demo. Is that a way for me to play around with the features without having to go live? No, you can play around with the features without having to go live all the time. You actually have the ability to turn off the streaming aspect, which is a whole nother sub conversation that we're like, we should just call it Ecamm instead of Ecamm Live, because it's so much more than just a program that allows you to go live. This is like as easy as you need it to be or as complex as you want it to be. Is just amazing. So we're back in live demo, and what live demo mode is exactly what you're seeing here. It's a feature that Ecamm has that allows me to broadcast what my desktop or what my Ecamm is showing, so that I can go here and show you how to like move windows around and how to use Ecamm in itself. And that's what the Ecamm live demo mode is. But if I weren't actually broadcasting, right, and it wouldn't show here, right here where we're seeing where it says the live, right, and how much time I've been broadcasting, right there I would have a button that has the option to actually turn on or off the live streaming, and one of the options is recording. So with Ecamm and an active account, you're able to record, so you can have this entire setup, right, multiple cameras and everything, and just hit record, and it does all of this nice fancy stuff without broadcasting anywhere. Now, one thing that you won't have when you broadcast is that you won't have amazing questions or comments like the one that you just gave me, right? So that's the feature that you'd be missing out, but you still be able to utilize this program, all of its features, its transitions, the way that you can make scenes move, or the same thing, that run of show where you have the scenes set up so that it keeps you on track for what you want to record, and all that could be done without having to go live at all. So you can just record directly and gives you the ability. But just opening the program itself gives you the ability to create all of these things even before recording. So like we tell everyone in the community, open it, mess around, press buttons. You can't break it. You understand? You can't. And any window that you see here that you're like, oh man, sound levels, I closed it and now I don't know where it is, because anything like that, you'll either be able to find it right here, right here in your main window, right? One of these buttons, that's your sound level. So just clicking on it is turning these windows on and off, right? And if you're missing anything, because the only one that's not here, believe it or not, is this one right here, the scenes. So let's say you were to close the scenes window and you can't find it in the buttons here on the side, just go to your actual Windows tab, hit the scenes, and it's right there again, or right here, right? So that's how easy it is. Mess around with it, play with it. That's why we do the live demos every week as well, because you can't break it. You can just have fun with it. All right. Next question. Okay, says, so you can't record a guest with a custom background and yourself with a custom background as separate files. No, the only way that I would see that is if they're doing it themselves and they can have their own recording separate, sort of like they're making their own isolated file. But as far as Ecamm works, it will only bring it in. But this is what I also, this is the best way that I could explain this, right? I also use Ecamm to create the overlays that I'm going to use in post-production. So let me give you an example of this. Right now, you're seeing my camera feed inside of this like background overlay, because that's what we were just demoing, right? To get this, what I would actually do is just add another image. So once again, I'm going to go back to live demo. I'm going to go over here, and down here in the overlays window, I'm going to add a new shape overlay. So I'm going to click this in, right? And when I check it, I have a rectangle already built in, right? And we see it here, rectangle. So the rectangle is over my face, and there's some features and sizes that I don't want. So yeah, rectangle is fine, but let's unembiggen. Ooh, it's way rectangle. You see, okay, but there we go. It gives me the ability to make it any custom size. So normally it probably would be a solid color, right? But the fact that it's a little like the opacity is taken down is okay for me right now. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a green one and give it that like opacity shift. So this is so that we can continue to see what we're doing. So we have a rectangle now, and it's a green rectangle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with exactly my camera feed, right? And right there, I'm then going to change all of the settings. You know, the corner radius, I'm going to set it to the same thing that I have, to 38, which is the way I have it. Border, I'm going to have a color border set to 8. Where's the 13? Let's do 9. Bring that to white. Right, we're going to match all of the settings that we have on our overlay. This is a good enough example. Right? Okay. Imagine that this was fully green, right? Fully green. So instead of it being like just halfway opacity, what I would do is at this moment, I would actually, once again, that's my actual camera. There we go. What I would do is I'm going to go 100% on the green, right? And I would hypothetically, in this overlay, I would just shut off my camera. Oh, I'm locked in this scene, sorry. See, even me. I'm going to turn off my camera. So now the scene, as you can see, the scene is just a green overlay of the camera feed. So this is what I would do. I would create one of these, and I would not broadcast this. I would just record 10 seconds of this and then change the other background, right, that you wanted to see. So let me go ahead and get back to it. I think I illustrated that well enough, right? So once I have set up those green scenes, I will have those set up, and I will record 10 seconds of each one of them using Ecamm so that it looks exactly like what I broadcasted. And then the 2 individual isolated files, I would throw those into my editing program, my NLE, whether you're using Final Cut, DaVinci, you know, CapCut, whatever, right? And then I would throw those green overlays on top. Of course, they're going to cover the person like I just demonstrated, but that's when you would use your green screen keyer, right? What removes everything green screen, throw those onto the overlays. It automatically cuts out whatever's green, allowing you to see what's behind it, thus giving you the exact like individual screens and setups for each individual file, and you get to pick and choose how they look to your heart's content. So what the isolated file does is that it gives you the raw file so that you can do the same exact overlay or change it completely different to your heart's desire in post-production. But that's just one tip of how I do it easily. It's how I do it for my for the Flow podcast. Whenever we have a guest, which is usually not a traditional scene, I would have that guest on with their name on the lower thirds. So as soon as we're done with the actual production, I then go and change all the camera feeds right there to these same green screen fillers, and then record a 10-second file of it so that I have that overlay set up for post-production, because I know that I'll be getting all of the raw files of each individual one in its highest quality, and I just put them behind this overlay and cut out the green holes, with a green screen keyer. So hopefully that helps. It's the DDE song for some of you who know. If you know, you know. Okay. Spot, yeah. Okay, we're just at the hour, so I'm got like 3 questions left. We're gonna get through those real quick. It says, hello Luis, what teleprompter do you recommend? Size from 10 to 14 inches. Teleprompter app. Thank you. Right now, I've been advertising and pushing everyone to the Elgato teleprompter. It's good for the price and for what you're getting. I believe it's a 10-inch screen, and it makes it like very simple, right? A lot of these things could get complex, and the thing that we always try to aim for is ease of use. You're always trying to eliminate, like the speed bumps, so to speak, right? Things that will make it just a little bit harder for you to deal with. And I've had my teleprompter set up since before that one came out. So if I hadn't invested in this one, I would definitely be buying that Elgato one. It just makes things easier. So that would be my recommendation to you. Video like that has a question, says, remind us how to get all of Ecamm window back to the default layout. To the default layout, well, the default layout is kind of there everywhere, right? It really depends on your computer, because the default layout that I got on this screen here on my desktop machine was completely different than when I would run Ecamm on my MacBook Air when I'm at a hotel on the road, right? Because I'm going from multiple screens to one screen, and it packs all these windows in there. So like I had mentioned before, if it's something that you're not using, go ahead and just take it off, right? So going back into live demo, if it's something that you don't want, just click it out, right? Camera switcher window, not really using it because you only have one webcam, right? So you're not switching cameras, turn the window off, and then it gives you the ability to see that happen because I unlocked the scene. Okay, right? With the window scene, or with the scene locked, it allows you to just move these around. And if you go to the main, right, this main shot doesn't have a overlay, right? It just has the camera feed. So because there's nothing that I could actually move around like an element, is just a camera, it doesn't need to be locked for you to actually move this around, because there is no other element within this scene that you could move, right? There's no adjustments. It is just this camera, that camera, or nothing at all. Thus, this is how the original setup goes. So the way things go around on the original setup is like they're just scattered all over the place. But if you find yourself here where you have no Ecamm windows open whatsoever, just know that right away you can just go right to this like quick access menu on the window itself. The first one is your camera switcher. Second one is your overlays, microphone, sound levels, your camera effects, right? Which is like how I took the first scene and just clicked this little button and made it black and white, right? It just saves it for that. This is sound levels or sound effects. So these are things that are built in. So if you were to have music, right, you would be able to add your music to a folder. And then you actually have stock sounds, which are like the features that you have here. I put them in a folder, so that's not how they would normally look. They would just be available within this sound effects window, which is kind of like the air horns. Oh, and this is a good illustration. We bring the sound levels again here, right? And the sound effects is this window here, right? So we can see the sound effects. I have the audio at 79, 80. I'm gonna bring that down even more right now, 65, right around there. Good enough. And that way, if I were to hit something like the air horn, I know that was going to be like extra loud. That's why I already had brought down the sound effects in the window here for the sound level. So I brought down that sound level so that it just doesn't blow. And it's still pretty loud, and it's still pretty loud. So, but you also have stock sound effects that you can use for your live streams built in there. So that's that. This little bubble here is the comments window. So that's where I find all the questions and comments, right? So clicking it on and off, that's how easy that is. And once again, worst case scenario, if there's a window that you cannot find that you're looking for, you could always go right back to the top in the bar, go to the window, and all of these here are all of the windows that you have the ability to open up. Like the one that I said, the scenes, right? You click that one, and that's the only one that you don't have a quick access button for, but it is one of the main ones. So you go ahead and start clicking the items, turning them on, and putting them in your heart's content. So there you go. Last question. When in live demo mode, can you pick a single screen to display? Yeah, actually, that's what you're doing. I have multiple screens here. So going back to it, let's see. My behind the scenes, this is one camera. This one's not active right now, but I also have an overhead camera here. I have the camera that you're looking at right there. I have my B camera over here, obviously Mr. Camera Junkie, and a variety of different ones. Like they're just all over the place. So for me, like having all of these is like the best. But when you actually, it wasn't the cameras, it was the screens. Look at me. That's how easily I get distracted. I have one screen here. This is my teleprompter, so this actually works as a secondary screen. This is my third screen, and then over here far left I have my Mac Mini, which is where the music is playing. So I have the Mac Mini pumping music into the Rodecaster Pro. That's what makes it a lot easier, and it takes the work away from my main computer. But I digress. When it comes to the screens, right? In live demo mode, it's only going to pick one of them. So where you have your like pointer selected to, or the emphasis, is where the live demo mode is. So right now, if I click live demo mode, right, you should be seeing, not even me, you should be seeing like the comments window. And this is what I see in my teleprompter, right? That I have the ability to scroll up and down. And that's what's being displayed right now, because this is the screen that I have emphasized at the moment. So now that I get out of live demo mode, right, I will then go back to my main screen, right? And now that this main screen is emphasized, when I hit live demo mode, that's the one that should be. Oh, let's see. Oh, there we go. So let me see if I did that correctly again. I'm not sure because I can't see it. But once I have this one highlighted, it's live demo mode on. So we're seeing my teleprompter. We're no longer seeing me on display, because out of the 3 displays, this is the one that I have selected. So I'm out of live demo mode now. Go back, click to my main screen. Go into live demo here. And now you're seeing this screen here. As you can see, you're no longer seeing my teleprompter. You're seeing this screen, which is giving you the behind the scenes and showing you everything that you're seeing on screen as well, right? You're seeing the live demo, but inside the box here, which is the infinity effect, you're also seeing my actual screen, that this is the one that I'm looking at. I have a third tertiary display here, but that one's not the one that I selected, unless that's where my mouse is selected when I click the live demo mode button or selection. All right. And that is that. Okay. So that's how we do it. We've answered all questions. And I think that's where we're going to leave it. Let me go ahead and check the chat again. Thank you so much to the moderators, to Valerie, and all the Ecamm fam that have been answering questions in the background. Highly appreciated. All right. Keisha's in the house. How are you doing, Keisha? All right. All right, I think we did it, guys. We just went a little bit past the hour. We nerded out a little bit, but more than anything, I think that I answered the questions that you guys had here. Hopefully, I was able to do it in a concise manner that allows me to transverse my knowledge over onto you. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit the like button. It's highly appreciated. It also shows everybody at Ecamm that, Luis did a good job with the live demo. So it means a lot. And all the Ecamm fam, thank you for joining me today and us here at Ecamm every single week. You might not see me on camera, but I'm always in the chat and I'm always happy to help. So any questions that you guys might have, feel free to reach out to me in the Discord or in the Facebook. Or anyone else in the Ecamm fam, even though I'm speaking for them, I'm speaking in confidence to know that we're all here happy to help. So thanks everyone for hanging out, and we'll see you next week. Talk to you. Now I'm going to build an outro scene out of the intro scene.